Dr. Namrata, Dr. Anshul, Swapnil, Mr. Aayush, and Dr. Hiten. We just had a very knowledge-sharing presentation from you all esteemed speakers. Now we'll start with a general question open to all before going for the specific ones. So starting with Dr. Namrata. So what are your perspectives on engineering clean air in practice and how is it changing the way the spaces are designed? And further to it, are there any differing viewpoints regarding clean air solutions and indoor environment quality?
Thank you so much, Mr. Gopal Krishna. So, thank you so much for this question and inviting me this first session. I'm partly agree with the indoor air quality regulations in India and in global environments also, because in terms of India, we see regulations and advisories exist, but they are just setting the baseline for industrial establishments and commercial facilities. Frameworks like in national building codes and GREHA and WELL. So they are just giving a framework for higher outdoor pollution levels and increasing occupant densities in urban buildings. But the compliance alone doesn't guarantee a good indoor air quality, right? So, because as the previous panelist also said, that higher occupancy directly impacts CO2 levels, ventilation effectiveness, and overall exposure. So that's why it is important to have a critical design and operational factor apart from the baseline regulations. And also, if we rely specifically only on ventilation in polluted cities, because we have seen that outdoor ambient air quality is very worse in most of the Indian cities. So we have to actually we are going to actually worsen our indoor conditions also unless the incoming air is got properly treated. That's why designing systems comes here very critical, plays a very critical role. And but as I have seen and said some about some examples of some industries, some offices in Gurgaon office or some other places in India, so they are shaping their indoor air quality strategies due because of the global standards like ASHRAE, well, and because of evolving client expectations. So that's why it is important we have to focus on measurable occupant health, comfort, and productivity, and not just only to the compliance. So these Indian regulations are bare minimum for our indoor air quality, and we need to improvise our indoor air quality strategies driven by the combined challenge of indoor as well as outdoor pollution, high occupancy, because we have too much of population in our offices and our indoor environments. That's why we have to work on the need to deliver healthier indoor environments for each and every establishment, I think. Thank you.
Thank you for your insights, Dr. Namrata. That's very well said. Dr. Hiten, can we have your views, please?
Thanks for the question. So, my view on particular this question is so whenever we talk about the air quality, everyone thought of air purifier or the filtration system. However, from engineering perspective, clean air is much broader than just the purification. So, industry is now moving from product centric to the system centric. So earlier, a single particular air purifier can work in your indoor setting, but nowadays we can see in your corporate offices, hospitals, schools, parks, everywhere there is a centralized AC system. So we have to move from particularly product centric to a particular HVAC purification system where your commodity is cleaned in a single technology rather than providing a small unit in individual particular offices or particular classrooms in the schools. So this is where we should think of again differing from particular this point view. So we should not thought of only indoor because your outdoor is directly impacting your indoor. So just focusing on indoor and neglecting completely outdoor will not also going to work. Like I said about the source mitigations and source control. So, ma'am, Anshul ma'am also said about the construction qualities. We have faced that in Pune. Lots of the time nearby the construction sites, you will face lots of air pollution problems. So there should be some mandate from government as well. Like now in many areas of India, we can see that the green cloth is mandatory while construction. So this mandate should also be there, so that we cannot distinguish between the indoor and outdoor, but we should start implementing on the both levels.
Yeah, very rightly said. The indoor and outdoor air has to be balanced. So, thank you very much for that. Coming to Dr. Anshul, we want to hear your views, Doctor.
Yes, sir, definitely. I think Dr. Namrata, Dr. Hitesh, they have covered about this topic. Just to carry it further, because we all are talking on the same road, and we really are looking forward to clean air, not as a specialty feature, but it's a right.
Right.
So, absolutely, we need to breathe. And it's really surprising that whenever we talk about clean air, we often take it as a challenge. And
Mhm.
it is unsaid, it is an HVAC challenge, which is
Yeah.
actually not the case. So there are limitations for us to have clean air in the atmosphere, but we are trying to do that. But whenever we talk about clean air and designing spaces with it, there is a shift which is observed from comfort driven to health driven. So we are
Mhm.
confining clean air to health aspects mostly. But that is not the case, because we are defining and designing buildings for everybody. Today, if you're looking at health aspect, probably the people who are not looking at it are future patients. So it is really important that more air, clean air, both are in proper proportion. And I did mention about the pollutants. Yes, we really have to look at it. We also have to look at the carbon dioxide concentrations, which is happening. One of the speakers mentioned about the alarm systems also, and how certain hazardous air pollutants needs to be controlled right in there. And that is why I see a major change happening with the recent green building certifications that are coming up, because most of them have mandated certain elements for commercial buildings. So if you see Indian Green Building Council's new building certification program, so they have mandated the use of TFA, that is treated fresh air units, for almost all buildings, which is also extending to mixed use, may that be residential or any other typology. But if you have any kind of clubhouse or any public use or common use buildings also, treated fresh air should come by default. I have personally faced multiple issues when I go to hotels. Of course, we are not here to name or
Yeah, yeah.
tell anything about it, but including the five-star hotels, there are cases, because I don't have asthma issues or any other issues, but I am slight sensitive to low oxygen. And that is how, whenever we realize that at night 2:30 or 3 p.m., the treated fresh air units are off, suddenly few people who are getting affected by this problem, they just wake up and start running for air. There have been cases like 3:30, I am just standing out of the hotel in the parking area and trying to breathe, because the hotel is sealed. I cannot find a single openable window. There are many cases like this. So I think the changes that are being looked at is a use of better approach, the right calculations, not over designing, because that is another problem. We don't design for the number of people anticipated, but somehow it is sometimes over designed or under designed. So designing right with the occupant density considerations, even air quality conditions outside and indoor, then cleaning of filters. Also, nowadays, I think we are getting aware of it. And that is the change that has been observed. So, ASHRAE has been a major aspect and compliance that people are following. So, with US Green Building Council's lead certification programs, people are not only looking at the fresh air or the air flow, but even monitoring them with airflow monitors. And sometimes I think individual comfort preferences are also looked at on a great scale. So there has been a major shift while we are designing the buildings, and we are really seeing that happen. I think pandemic has triggered most of the awareness parts here. So
Very, very nicely said. Pandemic has triggered us and it has opened another sensors in our brain. And as you rightly said, TFA has to be by default and clean air is our right. Very nice, Dr. Anshul. Coming to Mr. Swapnil.
So, from a practical viewpoint, engineering clean air means we must stop treating indoor spaces like closed, isolated boxes. As I mentioned in my presentation, every building breathes. Uh, the outdoor microclimate right outside the walls, the local traffic or nearby construction dust directly decides how hard our indoor filters and HVAC system have to work. Spaces are designed are shifting from a standard fixed ventilation to a dynamic atmospheric responses where the building envelope actively adapt to the outdoor changes. Regarding different viewpoints, yes, there is a major gap in the industry. Traditional indoor air quality practices usually focus entirely on hardware filters, UV purification, and indoor dashboards. But the perspective we are bringing today is that you cannot manage indoor wellness if you ignore the outdoor boundary data. If you if your outdoor data layer is blind or inaccurate, even the most expensive indoor purification system will either ventilate or waste energy or underlate and risk occupant health. This is the main shift. We must prioritize data infrastructure alongside physical plumbing and wiring.
Good, very good said. Data infrastructure is must nowadays.
Yeah.
Uh, Now coming to Mr. Ayush, let us have your views, please.
I have a very simple and short viewpoint on this.
Yeah.
Nowadays, most of the buildings that we are talking about, especially grade A commercial real estate, have tons and tons of sensors. And that's a welcome change. That's great, right? We have hundreds of sensors measuring carbon dioxide, different parameters of air, temperature, humidity, etc. But all these data points are running in silos. They do not talk to each other. What is the point of investing so much in hardware if we are not able to derive any intelligence from them? Hence, it is extremely important that we look at using these different data points together in a single platform, deriving some intelligence and using the entire system properly. For example, the use of TFA, the changes of air filter, ensuring a positively pressurized building, and ensuring we have air curtains functional, etc., etc. These are basic things that most of us know about. It's just that they are all working in silos. It's extremely important that we have a common platform or a common insight generating engine that is able to understand and which decides on the fly right away that what needs to be done. We cannot have any sort of manual intervention on this. And in today's day and age where AI is becoming increasingly achievable by most of us, we should use that and try to inculcate those things in our daily applications. Most of the BMSs now are talking about it, Gopal sir, but I believe the usage is still far at the moment. Still, the tire has not met the road, right?
Thank you very much for sharing those insights. Of course, data is running in silos and intelligence is necessary to be integrated in one platform. Mr. Ayush, while you were talking about IoT and AI and level how to achieve the good air, and you talked also about the monitoring devices and the dashboards, as well as analytics around OEMs. So, what role do you envision for the real-time air quality data and AI-driven HVAC optimization in creating energy-efficient buildings, like your hospitals, schools, or whatsoever?
So that's a great question. Actually, if you think of it, both thermal comfort and wellness have to go hand in hand. And the moment we're talking about wellness, we're talking about increasing the ventilation rates to a certain level. And the moment you're talking about increased ventilation rates with the same or higher thermal comfort, we're talking about substantial energy consumption, which is against sustainability, etc. Hence, using these different sensors, like understanding the occupancy patterns, understanding the carbon dioxide levels or other parameters together is extremely important. That is what I was trying to answer earlier as well. Because we're talking about sustainability, energy efficiency is at heart of it. We cannot keep on pumping in fresh air from outside, otherwise our HVAC load will increase dramatically. We cannot keep on replacing the air filters non-stop because that's a wastage of money. And unfortunately, most of the air filters are not recycled. They're just thrown out there, unfortunately. So we need to have a good balance of this and AI and a lot of data with sufficient analytics, which is doing the entire control and telling us what needs to be done. For example, at Pleco, our dashboards can predict that AHU number 4 on the second floor needs an air filter replacement, or the coil's static pressure is too high, or the fresh air system's filter needs to be replaced. Things like that, right? Very simple, data-driven, actionable items is what I'm talking about, which is completely doable, is what we should adhere by.
Quite right. The predictability has to be inserted into, and that has to be integrated to get the real insights. Thank you very much, Dr. Anshul. Dr. Anshul, coming to you, you were talking about the clean air, designing filtration, ventilation, as well as system integration and sustainability aspects.
Yes.
So, how can developers integrate clean air strategies and eco solutions in building design to improve healthcare? And what business intelligence in filtering adoption will you suggest for the healthier buildings you are talking about?
Okay, so when we talk developers, we often confuse them to a typical set of typology being developed. But I feel whosoever is doing anything, any kind of construction is a developer. So looking at the typology of the project that is upcoming, if it's a residential, it'll have a different strategy. While if it's a commercial or a public place, it will have a different strategy. Institutions will perform definitely at a different pace with a different approach, while industries, they have their own norms and they go separately. Coming to a very important sector of healthcare, because where this clean air really matters and it is a compliance, it goes by default. I think every space has its own defined norms already existing. The part we are discussing is because sometimes they are not followed, and that is how we see the problems actually cropping up. So firstly, it is very, very important that every developer, whatever typology they are following, they completely look and design certain processes and norms for construction methods. Before going into the occupancy, even the construction aspect will be important. Site management and controlling the dust while construction is happening. That definitely takes up one major aspect. Secondly, once the building is occupied or before occupancy, they have certain dust which is already accumulated in the service areas.
Correct.
So cleaning that also becomes very important. And yes, on occupancy, today we have options of AI-enabled predictive ventilation, digital twinning, even integration of health matrices we can do in our, overall aspects of maintenance, O&M, what we call. Then we should also look at a long-term perspective when we are talking of air quality, because we design the overall services and do the commissioning and then forget it. So we have to revisit it at a particular interval. So probably the AMC that goes along, we usually have 1 year AMC or 5 years AMC, but that really needs to be, taken very seriously, and not the person should come only when there is a problem that happens. It has to be a regular service aspect. So I think developers really need to take care of all these things. I'm very happy with one fact today in our country, that we have very good people who are maintaining the buildings as well. So even we have certification for O&M which is going on, and also maintenance of the projects. Usually residential buildings don't go for such things, but commercial buildings, malls, to be very specific, they can opt for such things. And I think it's time we should make it a mandate now. Going with larger developments as a part of their ESG, why not include a separate head which is only monitoring air and moving towards clean air now. I think it's high time we should do that, and also have the matrices registered for clean air, which is being developed. So I think by doing all such things, we can look at really an impact driven approach. And I think it's with excellent air quality, we also need to integrate other services and let it have an integrated approach for complete environment quality for that place. Air is one, but it cannot be only the air quality, but the improved environment quality can really be affected. So I think that's how the health boost will come into place.
Correct, correct. Definitely, some awareness is increasing because of all these things, and the people are getting aware what to do about the pollution, and with all the construction activities that is going on. Coming to Dr. Namrata, while you were talking about the IAQ and PM uh, in the hospitals and school designing, humidities and integrating sensors monitoring. So, talking about the air quality to improve occupants' well-being, how do you see regulation and environmental standards influencing IAQ strategies, big facilities, larger facilities? And what are your suggestions about it, Dr. Namrata?
Thank you so much, Dr. Gopal. So, while looking into the air quality assessments, we are, as I have said earlier, Indian regulations are mostly focused on the outdoor air quality assessments, or we
Correct.
will say ambient air quality assessments. So, I
Yeah.
think it is high time to look into the indoor air quality assessments, and we should have that air quality AQI index as well as for indoor air quality. So, we have to fix or some enforceable standards which will interpret the data of indoor air quality, so that we would be able to understand the designing of HVAC systems, and also to understand basic things like how much amount of relative humidity is important for that specific facility, and how much amount of, see, there are advisories for CO2, for PM10, for VOCs, but it's still uh, not just looking into the CO2 proxy sensor, but that is insufficient. We have to also look into the tracer gases assessment, and we have to also look
Correct.
into the air change effectiveness ratios, or we have to understand those parameters and test them routinely, so that we can understand all those things. So, getting this data and connecting it with our system is important, like Mr. Anshul said about it, to have the data driven technologies and incorporating it with AI, or incorporating with our HVAC system, so that we can have a practical implementation of that data. So that is very important. So not only air quality assessments, also we have to do the compliance audits, we have to look into the health risk assessments of indoor air quality, and also we have to way forward with an integrated approach. So we are here, I think, with this panel discussion, we have to focus on control and mitigation at source first, and then and that will happen with the air quality assessment, obviously, and that will again affects give us the data, so that we can understand the designing systems, and we can understand our buildings, whether it is hospitals, whether it is schools. So we should focus on assessments of occupancy data, we should focus on assessments of various pollutants which are different in each and every facility, in hospitals, in schools, in business establishments, in commercial facilities. So yeah.
Thank you very much for touching all-round aspects
Thank you.
about the parameters and advisories that has to be there. Coming to Mr. Swapnil, yeah, a basic requirement is clean air, as you say, and
Yeah.
you talked about the sensors monitoring. So accurate monitoring means right quality management, correct? So what is
Yes.
your opinion about air quality data reliability?
To be very frank, right now, raw ambient air quality data out of the box is highly unreliable. The massive rush of to put the cheap IoT sensors has given the industry a false sense of security because of pure physics. These sensor faces unavoidable dust buildups and baseline drift the moment they are left outside. Studies by C-STEP and, as I mentioned, and IIT Kanpur have heavily documented these unmanaged sensors face a massive error during heavy winter pollution and all. As we saw in our slide previously, as I mentioned, that about Lodi Road and Siripot data and how they were stuck lines, the flat lining of the data and the deception of the proper, alignment to the air quality, to the CAQM stations. When a sensor might track the daily pollution curve perfectly, but misses the true weight of the toxic spikes over like 70%. This is exactly where emerging technologies can completely transform large spaces like hospital, offices, and factories by moving away from basic dashboards to infrastructure layer calibration engine. Mr. Ayush also talked about that integrating intelligence in across the all the brands and everything, so that we can get a dashboard that completes everything integrated in the system and to facilitate the decision based on those metrics and policies
Right.
integrations.
Right. So integration is very necessary, as you said. Coming to Dr. Hitesh, while you were talking about clean air makes us productive and talking about the PM source mitigation and other things. So given the increasing impact of the smoke and industrial emissions, so what emerging clear air technologies do you think will be likely to reduce future pollution exposure?
I am currently sitting into India's one of the largest pollution hub, Delhi NCR. So there is one norm came recently by the CAQM that all industries has to meet their pollution below 50 mg per normal meter cube. And
Okay.
I am doing currently a survey, and I would like to share that how exactly the industrial pollution look like. This is one of the industry. Just have a look for the emission. So this is just live data for today morning. This is the PM that is being generated, and this is the same area. We have a different organization. You can see the stack. So we have seen two different scenarios. There are in the same area two different organization, two different stacks, but the pollution coming out of these two is completely different depending on the technology that they are using. So very rightly, ma'am said. The previous speaker also mentioned about it that we have to maintain the technology, AMC and all these things. So we should buy technology and forget it. This should not happen. In industries, you should first maintain the technology. Selection of the technology is still secondary. The maintenance is first. So once whatever the technology you select, it should provide according to the maximum efficiency for particulate matter mitigation. Again, I will answer these questions in two ways. One is the industrial settings and one is the household settings. So in industrial setting, I would still suggest single technology is not going to solve all your problems. You have to go for the hybridization. You should go for multiple technology and use the synergistic impact on PM reduction. So whenever cyclone and ESP or cyclone and baghouse will work, they are going to provide you the complete reduction of PM10 and PM2.5. So each
Right.
of this technology has different sets of advantage and disadvantages. Likewise, if you look for this is about outdoor, but we will not just rely on the single source. Like I said in my particular presentations, that we have to go for an ecosystem where we have to try everything from outdoor to indoor. So in indoor also, we should not rely on only just HEPA filtration. We should go for ionization. We should go for multi-layered filtration. We should go for UV-based deactivation of bioaerosols. So this is where your technology should come up to tackle the different aerosols on each level in household as well as the outdoor.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Hitesh. Oh, no, we are running off the time. We had a very thought-provoking session. Maintenance is necessary, and specific authorities, that Dr. Namrata said, are necessary for the environmental standards. There has to be some suggestion has to come out with a roadmap to develop IAQ code. Clean air is our right. That is a very strong, emerging thought.